Well, what does the Democrat Party stand for? It appears what's truly important to them is fighting for the return of a deported criminal. Right now, Democrat Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen is trying to be a hero by sticking it to the Trump administration and flying all the way to El Salvador using taxpayer dollars to be the one to rescue alleged MS-13 gang member Kilmar Albrego Garcia, who was recently deported back to his home country of El Salvador. The Democrats and the mainstream media don't want you to know that he was part of a criminal gang. They also don't want you to know that he's previously been accused of physically abusing his wife. And in 2021, Kilmar Albrego Garcia's wife filed for a protective order against her husband, claiming he punched, scratched and bruised her, according to court documents. No, they want you to think he was just an innocent Maryland father and that Donald Trump is a big bad bully.
Well, Chris, you laid out the stakes very clearly, both for the country in terms of the Trump attack on freedom and in the case of Kilmar, who is Exhibit A of a bully trying to start by picking on the most vulnerable.
The Trump DOJ has released evidence showing that Kilmar Albrego Garcia was a member of MS-13, but that's beside the point. Kilmar Albrego Garcia came to America illegally. He's a citizen of El Salvador, and as we heard from El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele this week, the country has no intention of sending him back to America. If El Salvador wanted to do that, then the Trump administration would have to facilitate his return due to the Supreme Court ruling. But according to Stephen Miller, he would likely be deported again.
They said the most a court could ever compel you to do would be to facilitate return, which would basically mean if El Salvador voluntarily sends him back, we wouldn't block him at the airport. We would put him back into ICE detention, and then he would be deported either back to El Salvador or somewhere else. The Supreme Court said that is the most the government can be expected to do. So we won the case handily. The misreporting on this has been atrocious.
Okay. But the Democrats are using this case to fight against Donald Trump, which is really the only trick they have up their sleeve. They're mad that Donald Trump is following through with his campaign promise of removing illegals who came to America illegally. And for Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen, well, this is his big opportunity to grandstand and film himself every step of the way like he's some sort of influencer as he makes his way from the US to El Salvador.
I'm here at the airport. I'm about to board my flight for San Salvador. The goal of this mission is to let the Trump administration, to let the government of El Salvador know that we are going to keep fighting to bring Albrego Garcia home.
Now, unfortunately for Chris Van Hollen, the trip didn't go his way. He was denied a visit with Kilmar Albrego Garcia, but Chris Van Hollen, well, he's vowed to keep on fighting because he appears to care more about deported criminals than the American people. And what's really sad about the way this has been portrayed in the media is just how much attention Kilmar Albrego Garcia has been receiving when there are people like Patty Marin who are still living with the pain and the grief because her daughter, Rachel Marin, was horrifically killed by an illegal immigrant from El Salvador in 2023, and the media doesn't want to know about it. Patty Marin spoke at the White House today, slamming Chris Van Hollen for barely even acknowledging her daughter Rachel's death and for taking this taxpayer-funded trip to El Salvador.
Why are we not protecting the American citizens? It's just common sense. Why are we not protecting our children? And to have a senator from Maryland who didn't even acknowledge or barely acknowledged my daughter and the brutal death that she endured, leaving her 5 children without a mother and now a grandbaby without a grandmother, so that he can use my taxpayer money to fly to El Salvador to bring back someone that's not even an American citizen. Why does that person have more right than I do, or my daughter, or my grandchildren?